talk about accountability. I had a client once this colleague was the equivalent of their HR manager. It was a small company without an actual specific HR role. This colleague refused to even say the word accountable. Given that there were times, as in any company, when one employee or another needed to be, and I will say it, held accountable for a performance problem, this created more than a little tension and difficulty. But it does point to a problem with the words accountable and accountability. More often than not, they're used in the sense of punishing someone or taking someone to task for some kind of failure. So let's unpack the word and see if we can make it a little more accessible and helpful instead of just being a code word for you screwed up and now you've got to pay for it. First, though, I'm Grace Judson. I'm a leadership geek working hard to help recently promoted managers learn how to lead well, how to be the leaders they want to be. I've put links into the video description down below for you to learn more about my work and how I might be able to help you or one of your managers. So, back to accountability. It simply means that you are responsible for living up to the expectations as they are defined within your workplace and your personal life too, for that matter. You're responsible for your behavior. You're responsible for living up to your commitments. And if you're not meeting the expectations of your boss, your team, or yourself, because yes, we can and should be accountable to ourselves, then we need to give an account of what happened, why it happened, provide a commitment to doing better, and explain what we need in order to do better. In too many instances, and this is where we fall into the trap of viewing accountability only as a path to punishment, we aren't adequately informed about what the expectations are. If we are to hold someone accountable for completing a particular task at a specific minimum level of quality and by a specific date, but we haven't explained what all of that is, or if we haven't made sure they have the skills and resources they need, then we've set them up for failure. I don't wonder at all. Who should be held accountable for that failure? Who should be the one to explain what happened and why? Not necessarily, or not entirely, the employee who didn't have what they needed and maybe didn't know enough about the situation or have the skills to ask. So the first step in making sure we use accountability in the most positive and helpful ways possible is to make sure we clearly define our expectations for ourselves and for our team. If, just as a for instance, we as individuals or within our organization, we define our values, something I encourage everyone and every company to do with both care and intention, then we also need to hold ourselves and our employees accountable for walking the talk of those values. But that only works if we define what walking the talk means. What does it look like? What are the specific behaviors we expect? And are those behaviors different in any way depending upon the different roles an employee holds within the organization? For instance, is there a different level of accountability for a senior leader than a summer intern? I would say yes, because we have different expectations for people in those different roles. When there is no accountability, as in the rather extreme case of my client and his accountability-averse colleague, then managers have no effective way to set or maintain expectations. There tends to be little trust, and there tends to be a lot of dropped balls and unexamined mistakes. Now, don't get me wrong, accountability doesn't completely prevent mistakes, but it does allow for learning from mistakes instead of just letting them go splat and having to pick up the pieces, often repeatedly because the learning isn't happening. Accountability means mistakes happen less often and aren't repeated, which means accountability also allows for growth within a role and within an organization because people who are held accountable for their work will learn how to do it better instead of just repeating mediocre or flawed performance. I mentioned that we need to hold ourselves accountable as well as others. We need to understand our expectations for ourselves along with understanding the expectations others have for us. And we need to explore what we need in order to meet those expectations. Because making sure we have what we need, whether it's for ourselves personally or to meet our job requirements, is part of being accountable. Here's the thing, it's all very well to have expectations for ourselves and for our work. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable for meeting those expectations, then we aren't learning, we aren't growing, and we aren't succeeding. So, what's been your experience with accountability? Have you seen it or experienced for yourself how it can be used to punish? Or have you been able to wield it with respect and care? Have you used self-accountability to help yourself improve? I'd love to see your thoughts on this, so leave me a comment, as well as your questions. I always come back to read and respond to comments and the questions in them. And if you aren't already subscribed, you know what to do. Click subscribe and then click the bell so you'll be notified when I release a new video. And in the meantime, go forth and hold yourself and your team accountable in all the best of ways. Take care.